yourself first, Isaac?
Hi there, I'm Isaac. I'm the singer, songwriter, and manager of Empathy Test, a synthpop band based primarily in London, although I'm now living in Linz in Austria.
Wow, I did not know
Yeah,
that.
that's where I am now.
Oh, I thought you were in London.
No. As of October last year, I became a legal resident. I'm still a British citizen, but let's call it keeping one's foot in the door of Europe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah.
And I believe, just saying, Daniel Graves lives in Austria as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was completely unplanned and coincidental. But yeah, he moved here about a year before I did. And of course, his wife is Austrian. So he lives about a 20-minute train journey from me.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, I'm sort of in the town and he's out in the countryside.
Wow,
So
that's very good. That's very
yeah,
good.
nice to have a familiar face nearby.
Exactly. That always helps,
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah.
What was the idea behind your name, Empathy Test?
Basically, Empathy Test originally was just myself and my best friend Adam, and we've known each other since we were kids, and we were really into sci-fi when we were growing up. Still are very much into sci-fi. We recorded some tracks together, played them to our friends, and our friends were like, "Yeah, this is really good stuff." Sort of a year since we kind of got together and started making Empathy Test music, we released an EP, and we needed a name, and I went back to one of mine and obviously Adam's as well, favorite sci-fi films, Blade Runner, and I was just watching it, thinking maybe there's something in here that we can use as a name, and then suddenly this voice said, "Is this to be an empathy test?" And it just really stood out, and it was kind of a light bulb moment, and I was like, yeah, empathy test. And of course, it has this interesting meaning because in the movie they use an empathy test to try and deduce whether someone is human or these advanced androids, replicants, because the idea is that machines can't have empathy. So that's sort of the main meaning behind it. It's like, what does it mean to be human? And also because we were making music on the computer, so with machines, if you like, but I think our music, because of my very sort of personal and heartfelt lyrics, kind of connects on a very personal and human level at the same time. So exactly. If you like our music, you're probably not a replicant. But who knows?
Exactly. Well, yeah. Advances, you never know.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what's influenced your musical style?
I mean, myself and Adam had attempted to make music together several times before, and he was making dance music, and I was making, writing acoustic singer-songwriter-y type stuff. And so the problem was always how to mix those two things together. And we did a lot of, electronic beats with guitars. And I mean, it has been done, but it just never really worked for us. And then we had a chance conversation about the movie Drive, and its soundtrack, of course, which is mostly synthesizers. Adam was like, maybe we could make a track like that, using synthesizers instead of guitars. And somehow that just worked so much better. I think something about, the sounds that you can get out of a synthesizer are just so kind of atmospheric, and, particularly the sort of old analog sounds, that people like Gary Newman used, have this kind of innate darkness about them as well. And I think juxtaposing those sounds with my vocals, which can, perhaps be a bit kind of saccharine if, with an acoustic guitar, and a bit too pop. Somehow, the two complement each other and pull each other in different directions, which I think me and Adam as musicians also do for each other. That was how we ended up with that sound.
It's a great sound, though.
Thank you.
It really is a great sound.
Yeah, I don't think there's really anyone else doing this, that something quite the same. No. And I mean, we kind of think of ourselves more as an indie band, really, than a synth pop band. It's just that we're an indie band using synth pop sounds, I guess. And some of the songs on the latest album, Monsters, which we released last year, because we've added in Chrissy, our drummer's acoustic drums for the first time, it gives it a kind of more organic sound. And also our new keyboard player, well, I say new, it's already been a year that he's been in the band, Oliver Marson. He is adding synth sounds from his Prophet synthesizer, and we're actually recording those and putting them in, and so it's the sound is developing, and certainly sounding a little more like a band now than a synth pop duo as we were on the first two albums.
Monsters is a fantastic track, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much. It's
a fantastic
track.
I
mean, that's the first Empathy Test track, basically co-written by the whole band, because Chrissy wrote the drum beat for that one, and Ollie the kind of synth hook that basically the whole song's built on. It's good to add new minds and influences to the mix and get something fresh.
So was it
evolve?
Has it been difficult to follow Here's a Place? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I think it's been a lot more difficult to follow Losing Touch,
wow.
which is still our biggest track, and I think it's on something. There's two different versions on Spotify, and now the remastered one from the album and the original EP version, and together they've had something like 4 million streams. And it continues to, every now and again someone new discovers it and puts it in a Netflix show, or a Dolce and Gabbana advert on Instagram, and suddenly I think it's just so accessible as a song, so immediately memorable, and I think Here Is the Place is in my opinion, an equally great song, but it just doesn't quite have the same universal appeal somehow.
It's just such a sad song, isn't it?
I mean, I don't think it's sad, but then I think that's the same with a lot of Empathy Test songs. The lyrics kind of are. Have a lot of pathos, and it's sort of on the surface is about dying, but it's not a sad death. I was kind of inspired originally by walking through the the graveyard in the village where I grew up in Kent, in England. And this was something that I was doing not because I'm a goth and I like hanging out in graveyards. The footpath from my mother's house to the village, you had to go through the graveyard, which made for some interesting trips home from the pub. In the mist after dark. But anyway, I was walking through there and looking at the gravestones and all of these sort of family names of families that had lived in this village, Edgerton, for probably centuries, and sort of feeling a part of that place and thinking about it being a nice thing to be buried in this graveyard. So it's like, here is the place. When I die, I want you to bury me. But then I sort of also decided that actually maybe I rather than in this graveyard, which was rather full already, to be buried beneath this willow tree in my mother's garden. So it's kind of a funeral procession through the village and to the house. But it's also about journeys, and traveling home, and also growing up. This is sort of another meaning that's kind of actually thought up by other people, not myself, that it's about growing up and leaving home and the kind of death of your childhood and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of interesting ideas in that song.
But it is a lovely piece of music, that it really is. And
thank you very much.
Lyrically it's brilliant as well.
Yeah,
but then
that song actually made my stepfather cry, which is I was going to say which is quite an achievement, but it's made a few people cry, which is nice. I guess.
Well, it is, because it shows that it's having an effect.
Yeah,
It does mean different things to different people, but but it is a lovely piece of music. That.
Thank you very much.
What's the creative process? Is it just you do the writing, or is it the whole?
Well, I mean, yes. Originally, I would basically call myself a songwriter. So I write a song on an acoustic guitar, and basically make sure that that it's a strong song that can stand alone without all of the synthesizers and drums and everything. I think sometimes if you make writing the music first on a computer and creating a loop or something, and then writing the vocal over the top, and then you take away everything again, sometimes there's no song there. Which I find with some synthpop acts, when I've sort of tried to play it on the guitar and I'm like, it doesn't quite work on its own. So I write a song, and I record a demo of it, and then I'll hand it to Adam, and then he'll do some stuff with it and send it back, and we develop it like that. On the most recent album, as I said, it had, we had some writing input from Oliver, and what we kind of did there was a montage of three different things. So a song of mine, some kind of loop or idea that Adam had been working on that he felt fit with my song, and then Ollie recorded us a bunch of riffs and stuck them in a Dropbox folder, and then we dip in there and be like, which one of these would work with what we're doing and put them all together. And a good example of that is Love Moves, the final song on the album, which is basically 3 different ideas all merged into one.
Wow.
But I mean, it's kind of changing as we go on, really. I mean, Adam has so many other projects that he's working on, not just musical. You know, he is an illustrator as well and does our artwork. So he has a whole another career in illustration, and then he has several different music projects. He also works for a music library, you know, creating sort of soundtrack stuff and whatever. So his time is that he can spend on Empathy Test is you know, rare. So I think, you know, maybe moving forward, I'm going to be doing more writing with the rest of the band, and then kind of handing him almost finished tracks that he just then has to produce, basically.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. What was it like when you were out and about and then you get a message saying that Aesthetic Perfection wanted to support them?
Well, I mean, when are we talking about? Because I first met Daniel in 2016, September 2016, when we both ended up on tour with Mesh, another UK synthpop band, a bit older than us. But they, we all have the same booking agent, Jan Winterfelder, plus Felt Promotions, and it was kind of we did a couple of support shows for D-Vision before that, but the tour with Mesh, the European tour with Mesh, was the sort of first big thing that we did with Plus Felt, and it was supposed to be just us and Mesh, and then the decision was made to add Aesthetic Perfection as well. So yeah, we all ended up on tour together, and I think after 2 shows, after the 3rd show or something, Daniel invited us to go on tour with him in America. So I think he was very impressed with what we were doing, and also liked us as people. Yeah, he invited us to tour America, and of course it took until 2019 before that actually happened. But I mean, at the time we were like over the moon. Yeah. I remember we were already pretty tipsy, shall we say, after the show, because we were kind of suddenly, you know, living the dream. I mean, at least I was. You know, this was something that going on a proper European tour on a nightliner bus and all this was a dream come true. So I was already kind of like, you know, on cloud 9, and then we were invited into Plus Felt's sort of production office in whatever venue we were in, and it was like, you know, how'd you like to come to America? And we just we were just rolling around on a sofa like just you know, kind of laughing. And yeah, so yeah, that was pretty cool. And now, I mean, we're kind of in sort of becoming semi-interchangeable with Aesthetic Perfection. You know, Daniel's had a bit of the same problem as a lot of bands, you know, of not being able to tour during COVID times, because obviously Joe Letts, his drummer, is all the way in America, and traveling to Europe has been impossible, and bringing him over for just one-off shows is not doable. So he's had to cancel a few things, and we're, you know, I've I've picked up the reins where he's dropped out on a number of occasions, and of course he's been DJing at a lot of shows we've been doing as well. Yeah. In Prague, for example, he wanted to come just and hang out and watch the show. And as soon as I told the organizers my guest list and they saw his name on the guest list, they were like, "Oh, would he like to come and perform as well?" And I was like, "Well, maybe a DJ set." So they sorted him out with a hotel room, and he came along and DJ'd. So yeah.
Well, he's a very nice guy, though, isn't he?
He is indeed. Yeah,
he really is.
Yeah, and I think we're going to be, now that we're both in the same country, we're going to be collaborating on a few different things, maybe a club night, maybe a tour in Austria, because I think both of us haven't got a huge audience in Austria. I think maybe Aesthetic Perfection a bit more. But yeah, we're both looking to... I think, it's the kind of time when one needs to go a bit more local for a while, shall we say, and concentrate on what you can do rather than overstretching.
Yeah, I mean, it's expensive. If you're going somewhere and a member becomes ill, you're all stuck, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, touch wood, I've managed to avoid the plague so far. But yeah, I mean, I see it all the time, particularly in the UK. It seems to be happening a lot because they've kind of thrown all of the restrictions out of the window. I mean, and everyone's getting it. So a band that I follow, October Drift, literally just announced in the last couple of days that they've had to cancel the rest of all of the dates for October because someone in the band just tested positive. So
I think throwing restrictions out too soon is a big mistake. But
yeah, I mean, it's all. I mean, as much as I hate the current UK government, they can't really win because, they've got obviously all of the businesses breathing down their neck. When are you going to let us operate as normal again? And then, people, I feel really bad for anyone with health problems that mean that it's much more dangerous for them to get it because they're too scared to go to concerts. So and no one really wants to have concerts with social distancing and masks anymore because it just kind of... So I see both sides of the story.
I think it's a case of damned if you do, damned if you don't with that now.
Yeah
you can't please everyone all the time, so I mean it's kind of impossible, really. Do you go out on this might sound funny, but do you go out on purpose when you write songs to make songs that make people want to cry?
Well, I think for me, from the earliest days when I first started writing songs as a teenager, it was always kind of a cathartic thing, getting things off of my chest, and I think singing is a really sort of great way of releasing tension, and so I mean I don't write songs about anything that doesn't really mean something emotionally to me. I don't think the songs would be as good if I didn't. So I mean that's part of the reason, and probably partly to do with bands that that I also kind of inspired me when I began songwriting, and I've always liked bands and singers who write lyrics that mean something and are emotional. So, I mean, my favorite band is The Cure, and I also, like certain bands who tick all of the boxes, and yet there's something missing. It doesn't connect with me on a deep and emotional level. So, I really liked Counting Crows, August, and everything after was a sort of album that inspired me to write songs, and that had some really, really sad songs on there. So yeah, do I set out to do that? Not purposefully, but it's kind of a byproduct of writing songs that really mean something to me, I guess.
I mean, I know you're a very different style, but your style of lyrics remind me a lot of Joy Division, the Ian Curtis style of songwriting, where it meant something to him, and he sang with that emotion, and you seem to do the same, but obviously a different style of music,
definitely.
but definitely there.
Yeah.
And
I would say that the difference between me, it sounds so weird to say, the difference between me and Ian Curtis is that I think he felt it necessary to kind of be to sort of also disguise what he was feeling at the same time, so that it's slightly more cryptic, whereas I'm sort of very quite straightforward lyrically. And I mean, sometimes I do a lot of things like have a double meaning to the song. So, there's a few songs that sound like love songs, or, about breakups or whatever, but they're actually about something else, which I was disguising slightly. But I mean, definitely, like he has very deep lyrics and very emotional.
Definitely. And again, they can mean different things to different people when you listen to his. I think it reflects on the mood that you're in at the time.
Yeah. And I was saying to someone else just recently, that when I'm performing them, I'm not necessarily going through the same emotions as I was when I wrote the song. It's a snapshot of a moment in time. And actually mostly what I'm reacting to when I'm singing them live is the uplifting quality to them. I think that songs can be sad, but also very hopeful and uplifting at the same time.
Yeah, I never thought of it like that. When you write a song, you're in that moment, but then if a year later you're singing that song and you're far from that place.
Yeah. I mean,
is there not a fear that take you back?
Sorry?
Is there not that fear that song can put you back in that place where it might not have been the greatest of times?
I mean, there's only really, like, I'd say one empathy test song that can, like, really sort of, drive a stake through my heart, and that's By My Side, but we don't tend to perform that one often. I mean, it's quite a popular track, but for me, it doesn't. There's too much stopping and starting in the song, and too much time where I'm not really doing anything. Is really the main reason we don't perform it. But I mean, I've sort of choked up on occasion while doing that song.
Yeah, but, can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, we tend to do most of the time we've only got 40 minutes, an hour, if we're not doing a headline show, and we just pack in all of the more upbeat numbers. And I kind of liken the songs to a photograph. You take the photograph at the time, but when you look at that photograph at a later date, your kind of reaction to it is different from how it was at the time. So
It's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. How's lockdown been for you? Has it been an opportunity in a weird way to be more creative, or has it helped you be creative?
Unfortunately not. No, I wish I was kind of one of those people that goes, "Oh, I've got a load of time
Yeah.
locked in the house that I'll be creative." To be honest, like I'm inspired by performing for people and doing shows, and I kind of need a certain level of kind of confidence in my abilities in order to write songs and finish them. So often I'll write when I get back from a show or a tour and be like, feel really full of energy,
Yeah.
and inspired by what we've achieved to do more. And so actually lockdown kind of had the opposite effect, where I was stuck in the house, and feeling uninspired, and generally quite kind of depressed that everything is being cancelled. It's been sort of nearly 2 years of just constant disappointment.
Yeah, it has, isn't it? It has.
And no one wants to hear songs about crushing disappointment.
No.
So I don't know. I mean, I've written this year a couple of tracks completely done that I'm really happy with, and another one that's kind of needs some more work, but I think it's going to be another good one. And I think Empathy Test, myself and Adam work in a way where we have to be inspired and we have to write. Everything has to be our best work. So and luckily, because we don't have a record label, we've turned down lots of record deals because they weren't really the right label. And I think in the end, not having one suits us better, because we can work at our own pace and decide for ourselves when we want to put out new music and when something is ready. I think it would be a really have a really negative impact actually on the band if we were ever forced to put something out.
Yeah, because they have a deadline and they want it by then. So you're not putting out your best work. You're putting out the work that's ready or as that point. Yeah. So you can't perfect
essentially
it.
Adam would would not release something if he wasn't 100% happy with it. Yeah. So I mean, there's been some things that some tracks that I think we could have done better. That and sometimes we've put pressure on ourselves, or it's like we need to do this now, and something with hindsight, some tracks could have been better. I mean, for me, like, I'm very much reliant on Adam's vision for what the songs end up sounding like, and sometimes if Adam doesn't sort of understand the track, or it doesn't just click for him exactly how to take it from an acoustic guitar track into a real track, sometimes the song maybe suffers a little bit because it just it wasn't quite right. I won't say which ones, because
no.
they may be people's favorite ones.
Yeah, exactly, and it might spoil it for them.
Yeah, I mean, there's some that I wouldn't mind having, us having another crack at one day, but we'll see. Yeah,
exactly.
So I don't think we'll be. I mean, I'd really like to get a new single out this year before the end of the year, just to get some more money coming in.
Exactly.
Because I mean, things, you know, luckily because we released Monsters, the album, at the beginning of the first lockdown, and you know, so for a year you've got sort of sales of that going out, and then it starts to sort of quieten down a bit. You know, that's tided us over, you know, with very little touring going on. But I think sort of the fallout of this year, no new music, you know, no album, barely any touring. I think next year is going to be a little bit difficult financially. But I think once the tour, you know, for me, once the touring kicks in again, Adam has other you know, revenue streams, as I mentioned before, but for me it's like 100% empathy test. So but once the touring kicks in, I think beginning of the next year, fingers crossed nothing gets cancelled again, we're going to be working really hard from the beginning of the year, touring as much as we possibly can, and obviously that brings in a bit of money, so I can at least pay myself for performing.
Yeah, that's what you need, though, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Definitely. Well, Isaac, it's been an absolute pleasure to meet you and talk to
you.
you.
You too.
And thank you for your time.
You're welcome.